Sioux Falls Municipal Band. Music for the people. It's been said that music is an art form that transcends language. Music is always changing, and the changes are unpredictable. The music made by the Sioux Falls Municipal Band has always been for the people. Not for other musicians, politicians, or even themselves, but for the people. Starting in 1919, the band has played every summer continuously to thousands of people, young and old, rich and poor, musically inclined, and tone deaf. All have appreciated the wonderful gifts our local musicians have laid before them. In the late 19th and early 20th century, hundreds of thousands of bands were formed not just for the entertainment of the community, but also for civic pride and competitive spirit. Popularity in the United States of these bands was also due to the lack of competition from radio and recordings, and the public's underdeveloped taste for symphony music. Many local bands came and went in a few years, their members joining other bands or realizing the constraints of work and family life on the pursuit of their music skills. The reasons for the Sioux Falls Municipal Band's longevity are best explained by looking at their beginnings, when a series of events led citizens to agree in 1919 to foot the bill to maintain a municipal band. Those events included the passage of a state band tax, the unsuccessful use of a contracted band for summer park concerts, and the performance in Sioux Falls of an outstanding military band. Many early bands provided entertainment for the citizens of Sioux Falls. Those bands included Stout's Band, a group formed in 1891 which played music for visiting theater groups, as well as concerts on Senny Island, which is by the present-day Falls Park. The Sioux Falls Fife and Drum Corps, a group held over from the Grand Army of the Republic, which was composed of Union veterans from the Civil War. Service organization bands like the El Riad Shrine Band and Moose Bands, and the local Army 51st Field Artillery Band. Interest in a local municipal band for Sioux Falls began in earnest in 1919. Other South Dakota communities like Mitchell and Watertown already had popular bands, and a group of Sioux Falls residents and businessmen believed the need was great to start a band right here in Sioux Falls. Backers hoped the city-funded band would be a more dependable source of music for the community. The city had employed bands when needed, but securing musicians for these events was not always possible. Citizens in favor of a new municipal band signed petitions to put the issue on the ballot in the spring of 1919. They originally wanted an appropriation of $30,000, but among opposition in the community, they finally agreed to just $12,000. The election of 1919 promised to be an exciting one. A tight mayoral race, a proposed streetcar system, and the formation of a municipal band were all on the ballot at the same time. The other interesting factor was that it was the first time that women were allowed to vote in municipal elections after the passage of the Women's Suffrage Amendment in November of 1918. Bad weather hampered the voter turnout that year, but the band proposition did pass by 170 votes, 2,452 to 2,282. A new citizens band would be formed with tax dollars. But Sioux Falls would have to wait more than a year before music flowed throughout the parks. The question of leadership was a major issue. A group of musicians met in November of 1919 and made Lloyd Coppins their leader, but didn't have the power to hire him. That duty fell to the elected city leaders. Coppins was the leader of the El Riad Shrine Band, and some officials felt that he was just a temporary conductor until a greater search could be done. City commissioners were slow in formulating a plan for the new municipal band, and it was a month before the season was to begin in 1920 that all the details were finally worked out. A plan of 30 concerts beginning July 1st, 1920, with the members playing 4 concerts a week, one each in McKinnon, Sherman, Colville, and Library Parks. There were 28 musicians, all local men, who began practicing in June of 1920. The first concert was played in McKinnon Park on July 11, 1920, starting at 7 p.m. Several thousand people attended, and the Sioux Falls Press stated that the Municipal Band gave an excellent concert, and it was apparent to all that it will be a credit to the city. The parks in Sioux Falls were a very important part of the life of the residents of the city. The band concerts brought thousands of people to them each week. Sherman Park was the only one with a permanent bandstand, but was also on the western extremity of the city at the time. McKinnon Park was a beautiful park filled with trees, flowers, and hedges. Library Park, which is now Heritage Park, was located near downtown on the corner of Weber and 6th Street, and Colville Park, now Terrace Park, was fast becoming one of the most popular parks in the city. These parks were a meeting place for residents new and old alike and still play a vital role for the band today. Uniforms became a major issue for the band, but the band budget didn't allow for their purchase. Over $10,000 of the $12,000 appropriation that was approved was used to pay band members, with the rest going to incidentals. Fundraising began for the new uniforms in December of 1920, and they were finally purchased within the next year. Although Coppins had been re-elected director of the band for the 1921 season, 15 of the 22 members voted for a new director. In the next 13 years, the baton was passed to 4 different gentlemen, but even under the new leadership, every few years the band continued to thrive. Indoor concerts at the Sioux Falls Coliseum were added to the mix, as were guest soloists from a wide variety of backgrounds. The band continued to improve, not only on their level of performance throughout the 1920s, but they also marched in many parades, played at football games, and held concerts in neighboring communities and across the state of South Dakota. In 1926, the Cosmopolitan Club built a band shell at McKinnon Park and presented it as a gift to the city of Sioux Falls on July 4th of that year. Performances that day, which also marked the 150th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence, drew an audience of upward of 10,000 people that enjoyed the rousing marches and musical scores that were presented by the band that day. That year, the band also performed a concert that was broadcast over KSOO radio and was one of the first programs on the fledgling local radio station. The late 20s and early 30s were volatile behind the scenes for the Sioux Falls Municipal Band. Strife between band members, city commissioners, and band directors caused a few directors to be ousted after a short time on the job. Still, thousands came out to area parks every year to hear the 50 or so concerts given by the band. In May of 1931, City Commissioner Joe Nelson spoke to the board regarding an idea he had for Terrace Park. He was not a member of the band board, but was an active, civic-minded city commissioner. His proposal to the board was to build an open-air theater at Terrace Park, near the natural amphitheater that was constructed by Superintendent Spellerberg in 1922. This was not to be a band shell, but a platform stage with a backdrop for live outdoor theater. And in 1931 and 32, built the present outdoor theater stage with an Italian and Mediterranean theme. The stage is still used today by the Sioux Falls Municipal Band for a band concert that occurs every Sunday night during the summer months. And in 1991, the stage and the backdrop were remodeled by the city. The Great Depression's tough economic times threatened the very existence of the Sioux Falls Municipal Band. The financial picture for the band might have continued to worsen had it not been for the leadership of the 6th conductor, Russell Hennigar. He was hired for the 1935 season and continued to lead through 1963. Hennigar was a skilled musician who toured with his own orchestra before joining up with the legendary John Philip Sousa in the band simply known the world over as Sousa's Band. Hennigar's skill in programming went beyond choosing instrumental music. He featured vocalists, community singing, tap dancers, child performers, baton twirlers, and even a whistler. Community singing began in 1936 with a stereo opticon projector and special screen that was mounted behind the band. Slides showed the words to the audience so they could sing along. The free entertainment was a hit during the 1930s, with crowds of up to 7,000 or 8,000 coming to some of the outdoor concerts. The band began playing more out-of-town concerts during this time as well. Exchange concerts were also held, with Sioux Falls traveling to neighboring towns and their municipal bands playing at one of our great city parks. The current City Hall was completed in 1936, which held the new offices for the municipal band on the 3rd floor. It featured a library room for all the sheet music and a rehearsal room. Rehearsals previously had been conducted in the American Legion Hall in Sioux Falls. During World War II, the band lost members to active service in the armed services. The shortage of players canceled concerts and caused Henniger to turn down requests for others. During this time, he did consider adding women to the band. Seeing as they were without an oboist for the 1945 season, he contacted Helen Brombaugh to rehearse with the band in the spring of 1945. Henniger told her shortly thereafter that he would have to withdraw the invitation because 3 of the current band members would quit if a woman were brought into the band. Donald McCabe, former band member, said, "At its inception and for many years, the band was composed of male members only. For many, this was great because it bonded the members more or less fraternally. Returning servicemen relieved the shortage in the band, and it wouldn't be until 1964 that women became regular members of the municipal band." Throughout the 40s, 50s, and 60s, the Sioux Falls Municipal Band continued its success even as the culture and musical tastes of the residents changed. The band played for many dedications, including the Veterans Hospital, O'Gorman High School, Minnehaha County Courthouse, and the Sioux Falls Arena. The dedication of KSOO-TV in July of 1960 brought the band to television for the first time, with a filming from McKinnon Park. Civil service regulations stipulated that Russ Henniger had to retire at age 65. After 29 years of service, he saw the municipal band through the chaos of World War II, through the middle of the turbulent 1960s. Dr. Leland Lillehog was selected as the new director to start the 1964 season. He had joined the band in 1949 and made the transition easily with Henniger's help. Since its inception in 1919, the municipal band had consisted only of men. Retirements in 1964 had left 2 positions as flutists vacant in the band. Seeing as there were no outstanding male flutists available in the city, some band members suggested that the band go without flutes until the position could be filled with men. Lillehog felt that it wasn't right that a tax-supported institution would keep talented female musicians out of the band. After considerable thought and investigation, he chose 2 young women, Kathy Hayes and Marilyn Loomis, to fill the spots in the band.
This was a taxpayer-paid municipal band. And I felt in fairness that there should be talented women playing in the band as well. It wasn't right to exclude them. Russ Henniger, the great conductor that preceded me, during the war he kept the band going, but it was very difficult. So he tried to invite a couple women into the band, and he had kind of a riot there. The men weren't going to take it because it had been an all-male band since 1919. And so he finally gave up, but when he retired, some of the other good players also were retirement age, and that included 2 flute players. There are only 2 flute players in the band of that size. And so some of the players said, "Well, just let it go, get along for a year." And I said, "Nothing doing." And so I tried to find the best flute players along, and one of them who was interested didn't feel that the players would want her. So then I picked 2 people who happened to be at Augustana at the time, and they were tremendous flutists. I knew they had to be, because if they didn't play well, then they'd say, "Well, that's what happens when you bring women into the band." They did a great job, and by the 2nd year, we had it licked.
1964 also saw a move for the municipal band. City Hall was getting too crowded, so the band moved its offices, instruments, and the library to the Coliseum, where the band was able to practice on the stage. Theme concerts started in the fall of 1966 with the first circus concert. The popularity of this concert has kept the tradition going ever since. Other theme concerts soon followed. The annual Children and Youth Concert was another favorite, with the band dressed up in costumes while they performed.
One of my favorite concerts was the Children's Concert, and I think that's a favorite concert for most of the members in the band here because we don't have to wear our municipal band outfits, we get to wear costumes to entertain the kids. So most of us choose cool and comfortable, and it's a very, very fun concert to see all the little kids dancing to our music.
A fire in January of 1973 at the Coliseum Annex threatened to wipe out the music library and equipment of the Sioux Falls Municipal Band. Lillehog and volunteers were allowed into the offices at the Coliseum, while firefighters fought the blaze next door in the annex. Luckily, the firewall at the back of the stage held, and the Coliseum and the band facilities were saved. 1973 was also the year when the municipal band acquired the Showmobile to take the music to the people. The Showmobile is a 40-foot movable stage that could be pulled to any location in town.
Before the Showmobile, we would play in the band shell at McKinnon Park. We would play out on asphalt in the open. We would be playing in weather that was so hot that the chairs were sinking into the asphalt. And so that was a big change.
The $20,000 price tag was shared between Parks and Recreation and the band. Before this, if they wanted to perform where a band shell was not available, 4-by-8-foot platforms were hauled to a location with plywood being used behind them to bounce the sound toward the audience. Computerization of the band's library was another large undertaking that Lillehog took on. A system was needed that could quickly sort and print out the holdings by composer, arranger, title, music type, and ascension number. What would be commonplace today was a monumental undertaking back then, and was thought to be the first of its kind, other than what the Library of Congress had done. When the municipal band began in 1920, much of the classical music it played was popular among the listeners. During the 30s and 40s, big band music was the rage, and was easily performable by a concert band. In the 1960s and 70s, attitudes and music were different. Many of the youth felt that the music of the concert bands was not their music. The music of the day did not fit organizations like the municipal band at that time. During these years, a greater than normal turnover rate in personnel also occurred. New ventures in the 1970s and 80s were begun to advertise the band.
We did, when we went into the neighborhoods, we had some neighborhood children in that area, paid them something, and they would pass out brochures from house to house to try to get attendance in there.
Lillehog appeared on television and radio talk shows, and advertising was done on television, radio, newspapers, and periodicals. Attendance was consistently good at the concerts, when the weather cooperated. During the 1980s, more pop music was slowly added to the mix of classics and well-known marches the band performed. A highlight of 1985 was the invitation extended to the Sioux Falls Municipal Band to participate at the Baseball All-Star Game in Minneapolis. It was a true honor for the great band. Dr. Lillehog retired in 1987 after serving as band director for 23 years. And Dr. Alan Taylor took the baton. A drop in the number of players that were members of the Musicians Union made it impossible for the band to secure recording trust funds, which had funded an average of 6 concerts per season for decades in the city of Sioux Falls. Budget cuts during the 80s also hampered the band in their efforts to bring the music to the masses. Also in 1987, the band went from being its own city department to being placed under the direction of Parks and Recreation in the city of Sioux Falls. 1991 saw the demise of the once powerful Sioux Falls Musicians Union. With the disbanding of the union, the 6 trust fund concerts were gone forever.
It was a union shop back then. You didn't play in the band unless you joined the musicians union. If you didn't commit to all the rehearsals and all the concerts at the beginning of the season, you didn't play the season.
5 years after his hire, Taylor resigned, and Dr. Bruce Amon took over in 1994.
The thing that I find about the Sioux Falls Municipal Band is it's a very dedicated group of musicians. They are very talented, dedicated to be able to perform as much as they do over the summer on a regular basis at such a high level. I think the biggest difference that I've experienced with this band is that they have to be ready to play with very, very short amount of rehearsal time. And that's a unique ability as a musician to not have to be able to practice for months or weeks to be able to perform a concert. This group has to do it pretty much on site, pretty much.
1994 marked the 75th anniversary of the Sioux Falls Municipal Band. Amon and the previous 2 band conductors all took turns leading the 75th anniversary concert held at Terrace Park.
And I felt it was very important to have some sort of a historical reference or background for the band so that we didn't lose the heritage and the perspective of where we came from.
The current band played half of the concert, and a reunion band consisting of former members played the second half.
When I took over the band, we were still performing down at the Sioux Falls Coliseum. And at that time, during my tenure, was when the roof collapsed in that facility. And so we could no longer be in there, and we were housed in the upper level. So one of the things that I had to deal with was the movement of the entire band to a small church that was just south of Our Savior's Lutheran Church. And that was our home for several years while I was directing the band.
In 1998, the band found its latest conductor, Chris Hill.
The band is a source of civic pride, and I really think it should be. We have a great reputation nationwide. When I first applied for this job in 1998, I was speaking with a friend of mine who was in the United States West Point Band. And I told him that I was applying for this conducting job, and he said, "Hey, good luck with that. That's a phenomenal band." And he had heard of it all the way in New York. We are very busy. There are only 1 or 2 bands in the United States that do as many concerts as we do during the summer. The quality is quite high. I'm surprised at the number of people in the band that have bachelor's degrees in music, master's degrees in music, and even doctorates in music. We have college band directors who play in the band, and of course they're wonderful musicians. And we have wonderful young people who play in the band who are incredibly talented.
A lot of our playing is sight reading. We spend only 1 night a week doing rehearsal. We rehearse for 2.5 hours, and we have 3 concerts or sometimes 4 concerts during the week. So a lot of our time is spent going straight through the songs. A lot of people in this band are very good sight readers, so they'll play through the music one time and they'll have to perform it. Whereas if you're in a different ensemble, you'll practice the music over and over and over again during a time span of 3 months and then present a concert. We don't have that much time, so we have to spend 1 night a week rehearsing, and we play probably 20 songs in the night, and then we have to play a concert during the week.
When I first started with the band, there weren't very many women, and that's grown a lot over the years. When I first joined, the uniforms had all been fitted for male members, so us few females had some interesting fits. But it's grown a lot with the women in the band.
The band has a theme for itself. We call ourselves Music for the People. And we don't just have one place that we play. You know, of course, every Sunday night during the summer, we're at Terrace Park. But we'll go into the neighborhoods, we go into retirement communities, nursing homes. We play where the people are. And every concert has something for everybody, because we don't just play just classical, we don't play just big band, we don't play just hymns, we play a little bit of everything. That's something that it's fun to do, because you know, whenever we start the concert, I always look out at the audience. There will be young folks on dates, there will be families with their kids, you know, rolling down the hill. There are older folks who have have been coming to concerts since the 30s, 40s. I feel that if we have an audience like that, then we're reaching a lot of people in a lot of different phases of life.
There have been some phenomenal musicians in this band, and it's been a real pleasure for me to be able to play with them and say that I was in the band with them.
Many fine performers have played with the Sioux Falls Municipal Band over the years, been a vocalist or other entertainer during concerts. Some of the notable ones include World War II flying ace Joe Foss, Lawrence Welk Show regular Myron Florin, Mary Hart, who went on to host Entertainment Tonight, and CBS sportscaster Pat O'Brien.
The first few years I was kind of grumbly about playing, having to get off work to play Veterans Day and the other extra concerts that we do, Armed Forces Day and Memorial Day. And then one year, shortly after I started, I really looked at those people in the audience and I thought, oh my goodness, look what they've done. If they've done that for me, this is the least I can do. And now those are my favorite concerts.
And I think there's no question Terrace Park was and is the favorite place. It's a Sunday evening concert. People are normally free. And it's a nice venue there where they set up and the band is down in the shell itself.
Every concert's special. Every community center we play, every park we play, every opportunity to play for our citizens is a special experience, and every one of them is special in my mind.
This band is really different because of just the quality of people who are in the band. You really cannot beat the people of Sioux Falls and the great musicianship that you have here, the great people you have here.
The Municipal Band offices made their final move to historic Orpheum Theater in 2007. This move also allowed them to practice in the renovated Annie Zabel Theater.
We're starting to gather music for baby boomers. So when we're playing retirement communities 20 years from now, it's going to be a little bit less big band and a lot more music of, let's say, the Beatles, the Doors, groups like that.
It's just been a great experience to be in the group. I'm grateful for the opportunity, and I'm grateful to the city for doing it.
I would love to be in the Municipal Band for as long as I can be because it is just such a positive experience and I learn so much. Every time I play with this band I learn something new, and I enjoy coming to rehearsals, I enjoy every concert, and it's a great experience, a great opportunity.
The band is still relevant because people still need to slow down, relax, spend time in a park, just enjoying nature, listening to beautiful music, not only of the past but of today.
The Sioux Falls Municipal Band has been an uninterrupted source of civic pride since its start in 1919, hosting thousands of concerts and bringing a high quality of music to the people of Sioux Falls every summer. The band has seen struggles and challenges through the years, but through perseverance has remained a strong asset for the community. They have brought entertainment to hearts and souls of all those who have been fortunate enough to listen to the Sioux Falls Municipal Band. In our modern, fast-paced world, the Sioux Falls Municipal Band has kept up with the times while still appealing to the masses. They truly are music for the people.